Howdy, gang, and welcome to another watch along for Death Screams, aka House of Death. I feel like it's been forever since I did a watch along. I had a busy few weekends, and before I'd been doing these like every other weekend. But then we had Horror Hound, of course, and I didn't do one that weekend. So the watch alongs are making their return. They will, we won't have one next weekend, but then the weekend after that, we should have one. And October's going to start Fulci Fall. And I see Chris is going to join me tonight, for which I'm happy about that because these watch alongs are a lot better if I have at least one person on here with me. Um, I can't recall if Chris has seen Death Screams or not. He's shaking his head no, I see. So this will be a first time watch for him. So I'm curious to see how he likes this movie. When I first watched it, it was under the title House of Death. And I watched it on VHS, and it was the only VHS I can ever remember where when I read what the plot of it was on the back, it's has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the movie you're watching. So, and here's another interesting fact about Death Screams. When it was shown in the UK, or maybe when it was put on DVD, the film reels of the negative were in the wrong order. So, can you imagine the British people's confusion trying to watch this film? And there are a couple of spots, even with the film reels in the correct order, um, that I can't figure out what we're supposed to be seeing or what exactly is supposed to be going on. So maybe Chris can help me out tonight with that. It'll help to have a second pair of eyes in the mix, I think. So, anyways, we're going to get started here in just a second, but I want to remind everybody that tomorrow night, also starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, the watch along will be for Phenomena. I'm finally doing Dario Argento's Phenomena. I know Candace, bless her heart, she's not feeling too good today. So maybe she'll be feeling better. I hope she's feeling better in any event by tomorrow. But if she is feeling better, perhaps maybe she can join me, and maybe her and Chris can both join me for Phenomenon tomorrow night if all goes well. So I can't really tell by StreamYard if people are in here or not. It's telling me there's 0 people, but I've had that happen. And then all of a sudden it jumps up to 5 or 6 or something like that. So me and Chris will discuss this movie. And if people, you know, come in at a later time, if you need a timestamp, we'll be glad to give it to you. If anybody comes in here, as long as you can behave yourself and you want to come on with us and discuss Death Screams, you're welcome to. I will make sure you get the link. But before I bring Chris on, I started to talk about this and got off on another topic. But October will be the official start of not only the Halloween season, but I am going to be doing Fulci Fall for the month of October. And also, one of the Friday Foolish episodes in October, me and Candace will be doing a Universal Monsters special. So stay tuned for all of that. And now, without further ado, I'm going to add Chris, and we'll go ahead and get this movie started shortly. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Dana.
And I can hear you loud and clear tonight.
Yeah, I remembered to set up my mic tonight. But yeah, this is kind of a just last minute decision to do this with you. I said, I've never seen that movie, but I went and did, a little bit of Googling for on Google Images, and I do recognize both like the Death Screams cover for, I guess, the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
and I believe I've seen it before. Maybe when I was looking around on Amazon or something. I know I recognize that. But I believe the other name was like House of Death.
Yeah.
I've seen the VHS cover of that. I was like, I definitely remember that too. But no, I have never seen this movie, and I think I that's why I decided to do this because I really like doing these streams with you. If it's a movie I've never seen before, I feel like you get like a more genuine reaction out of me with that.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
it's the first time watch. So, yeah, I'm excited.
And it is a slasher film, folks. So, and me and Chris are both big slasher fans,
Mm-hmm.
especially slasher movies from the 80s. The version I have is this is the Arrow Blu-ray release that
Yep.
was put out a few years back, and it looks pretty good. I mean, before then, when you were watching it on an old VHS copy, this is a dream come true when you get to jump up automatically to Blu-ray quality.
And I just shared the link for this stream too on Facebook and on the Fans of Horror Hound Weekend group because I know there's quite a few members in that group that frequent it. So maybe that might help us get a few more new viewers tonight.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. I don't think about that a lot of times, so it helps me that other people that are on here with me or other people that watch my stuff think of other ways that we can.
Yeah, I've done that quite a bit for you. I know that back when we did the ET watch along, I posted it in some ET groups I'm in on Facebook, and so that may have helped garner some views for you on that.
Oh, I'm sure Candace and Chris both do that for me. They both put links out to upcoming shows and streams and stuff like that. So be sure to be on the lookout if you haven't already seen it. I finally got my Highway to Hell Horror Hound Weekend video up with me and Steve talking about it before and after. I am supposed to be going to Horror Hound in March with Candace and Chris, and me and Candace will be selling our wares there. Maybe I can get actually some footage from inside of Horror Hound. I just felt, I don't know if Chris ever feels this way, but I feel like I can't get in a position where I can film with my camera.
Right.
There's so many people there.
I was actually going to do the same thing for you if you hadn't got to do that this past Horror Hound. And just send it over to you if you wanted like edit it in your own. But I didn't even get around to it because well, for one, just kind of like what you said, like I felt like I can't get in a position where there's so many people and stuff that you can't properly do it. But also, it's just I forgot.
Well, I kept forgetting too because all I could had on my brain was Robert Englund. Robert Englund. It was like a flash neon sign.
Yeah, like when you so. I've noticed with myself, at least, when I go to these conventions, like before the convention, I'm planning what I want to do, what I want to get, whatever. And like, so I have all these plans of this different things I want to do. I'm there. Once I get there, it's like that all goes out the window. And I'm just kind of like, because I'm so like in awe of like all these vendors and celebrities and stuff. And then like, so I'm trying to figure out like, ooh, do I want to buy this? Ooh, do I want to get this autograph from this person? When's my photo op? Like so when is that Q&A that I want to go to? So, and that's another thing. I like you forget so much within the time you're there because I've had plans like go to Q&As and stuff in the past, and then like I'll lose track of time and I'll look at my phone and be like, oh crap, I missed it.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking maybe since when I go with Candace and Chris, I'll be there all weekend with them. Maybe on Sunday, maybe if it's too crazy on Saturday or whatever, maybe I could get some shots Sunday before we head back or something like that. And, take a look at some of the vendors and the other vendors other than us. I'm sure I'll do some filming around our vendors.
Yeah, and since I'll be there with you too, like I'd be more than happy to just like, if you want to go walk around and look at stuff, I can sit there with Candace, or if Candace want to go walk around, I can sit there with you, whatever.
Right. Yeah, Candace says you're always helpful and always game to kind of help man the table.
Yeah, but because like a lot of the stuff that I do at these cons now, like I'll just like spend a lot of time just kind of like bullshitting or whatever, and just go talking to people, because a lot of stuff that I want to do, stuff I can get done pretty fast. If it's stuff I'm looking for, or people I'm wanting to meet or whatever, I can do that pretty fast. So like the rest of the time I'm there, I'm just there, just like, conversing with people, just kind of like, catching up with people I haven't seen in a while, stuff like that. But so yeah, definitely, I'll definitely have the time when we go. If somebody needs to switch out with me or something to help watch the table,
or we have to run to the restroom or something like that. Because
that too.
I'll tell you,
leave a bucket underneath the table,
or get something to eat or something, because we don't, we don't want to get woozy and somebody come up and ask us how much something is. Oh yeah, you can have it. Or that'll be $5 or something. That would be like me. I'd get all goofy and loopy or something, and I'm diabetic on top of that. So
I think a good idea too, and I've seen a lot of vendors doing this at this last Horror Hound, is kind of have one of those like stands that has like a paper in it, and just have like a menu pricing for all of your stuff. That way that you don't have your stuff out there, and you don't have to individually price every single thing you got, or you don't have to have it out there and people be like, "Oh, how much is this? How much is this?" And just well, our menu's right here. Blah blah blah. If you have any other questions, just let us know.
Idea. Yeah, and I think I'm going to put that to good use. And you can always get those little plastic stands to put.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, like because those will definitely be helpful for you guys, I think.
And I am going to do the binder thing. That I think you and Candace had discussed, that the binder that shows some
all the different designs and stuff like that. Yeah, that's a good idea as well.
For people that want to, or people that want to do a custom order, on a t-shirt or something. They want to tell me what they want on there. And speaking of custom orders, I'm making Chris a hat. As soon as I quit being scared and test it out on myself first, I'm making myself a hat first. So if I screw up royally, I haven't screwed up on Chris's blue hat. But I have like an ice blue trucker hat that I think will look great with that thing design. Yeah, I'm really thinking that's going to look good. As long as I don't screw it up. Please don't let me screw it up. But I guess we can go ahead and get started with this movie. Now, I have mine queued up to a United Film Distribution Company release.
If I can go ahead and pull that up.
And if anybody is watching and maybe just not chatting, I'll give y'all a minute or so in case you're wanting to get your own copy queued up. It is available on YouTube. You can just search Death Screams and it will.
It's probably the first one. The channel that has it is called FFF 43 Films. So yeah, it's on there if you need it.
Yep. Better watch it today because you never know when something will get taken down. I don't know about this movie, but you never can tell.
A lot of the more mainstream ones definitely get pulled.
Yeah,
I think stuff like this you don't have to really worry about. But you like my new long sleeve, Dana? My new long sleeve shirt I got at Spirit Halloween.
Oh, that's cool looking.
It's Creep Show. And it's got like, here's the creep, and let's see, right here is Jordy Verrill.
Yeah.
And here's Fluffy over here. It doesn't have all of the stories on it, but like the design that's on the front is also like on the sleeves.
That
as
is cool.
well.
Does it glow in the dark, Chris?
It
It looks
doesn't. I thought it did when I got it, but it looks really good under a black light.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say too.
We have a black light here, and we tried that out on it. I was like, oh, that looks awesome. But yeah, it was we went to the Spirit Halloween store. When was it? Earlier this week, I believe, in Corbin, Kentucky, and this was the last one they had in my size. So I said
Wow.
I gotta get it because I love Creep Show.
Well, Steve says we're probably not going to go this weekend, but he said maybe next weekend we would go to Spirit Halloween. I'm going to see what I can get.
They got some good stuff this year, but I felt like the selection last year was a lot better.
And I think some of these stores go through that. I mean, some years are a little bit better than others as
A
far
lot of
as
the stuff that they got this year is some of the same stuff that they had last year. But you know, it is what it is.
I'm thinking I'm going to be Laurie Strode for Halloween. I think that's going to be my costume. Trick or Treat Studios has a cool Laurie Strode costume.
Well, I'm gonna try to dress up this year. I think the past couple of years I haven't. I don't know why. Usually I try to, but I don't know. It's just the past couple of years. It's just kind of just been kind of crazy, and then like I get a lot of stuff on my plate, and I run out of time to get something that I really like because I don't want to just settle for anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
But one of these days, I would like to put together a Harry Warden costume.
I did that a few years back, and I've still got it. My costume is stored out in the garage in a tote.
Well, I don't think it would fit me, Dana.
No, I got a bigger size because I wanted to look like a man rather than looking like a woman in the minor thing. So I had
It's a pretty easy costume to put together anyway, except for the mask and the hard hat and everything, and that might be a little bit more difficult to get. But I think the outfit itself is pretty easy to put together.
Yeah, that part of it. Now, my mask, I was proud of the work I did on the miner's helmet and all of that. And I even went outside and spray painted things and stuff like that to make it look a little more authentic. Put red paint on there that would look like blood on
the helmet. Wouldn't be too hard to get for me, especially around where I live, because I live in a mining town.
Yes. So. Yes, it'd be a lot easier. Well, hopefully everybody that's going to be watching along with us tonight is queued up. This is not a very long movie. It's just shy of an hour 30. So it's about average. So we'll go ahead and do the countdown. We'll go ahead and get started with the movie. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Press play. And the letters turn to red, which is pretty cool. Okay, so this first scene is one that I've always been confused about, and I can see it better on the Blu-ray. I don't know how's the quality of the version you're watching.
It's pretty good.
Okay, so it may be taken from a Blu-ray copy.
Yeah, I mean, in the title it says Death Screams Full Slasher Movie HD. So
okay, so
yeah, the quality is pretty good looking so far, from what I can tell.
So we're shortly going to be seeing, if you haven't figured it out, a couple that is in the process of making love, but they're on a motorcycle, which is something that I don't think I've seen in any other movie. Maybe Chris has, but I haven't. And she's doing like a lot of women. She before they consummate their their relationship, she keeps wanting to tell her that he loves her.
It's funny how many slashers are out there that start off like this.
Yeah.
And not just slashers either. I mean, you can look at Phantasm kind of starts off like this
Yep.
in a graveyard.
And for you guys, you get some boobage there from the girl. But I'm waiting until this actually happens, and I'm going to ask Chris what he thinks. But I don't want to, go full on and say what's going to happen. Chris can probably guess, being as we've seen so many of these.
Yeah. Another one that I'd watched just this year that you kind of introduced me to was Bloody Birthday. Like that kind of starts off the same way as
Yeah,
well.
it does. Yeah, the couple in the graveyard and okay. So here's what I'm talking about. It seems that there's blood running out of their mouth, but I cannot really see what's happening here, even on the Blu-ray.
Yeah, it's kind of
Like
dark.
there's something wrapped around their throats.
Plus the shot is zoomed in really close, so you can't really tell.
And then you have, I think that's a great shot of the motorcycle going backwards into the water.
I don't know any of these people.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Well, Susan Keeger. Susan Keeger is the only one really that I know of. She was in adult films, but that's not what I remember her from. But she was also in the movie Hots. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
The movie what?
Hots, HOTS, I think.
Oh, I know of it, but no, I've never seen it.
Mm-hmm. But I think that Susan Keeger was primarily, at least early on, known as an adult film actress. Don't ask me if I've seen those, but
now the name's not familiar to me.
She's a very attractive girl. She probably did well in the adult film market. But something I was going to say, I wanted to ask Chris this too, and we're not through the opening credits yet, but this seems like the longest opening credit sequence in film history to me.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it feels like pretty average. I think it's just because of the visuals behind the credits are kind of slowed down. It makes it feel slower. But I don't know. I mean, if you look at the opening credits to the original Friday the 13th, those are pretty long.
Yeah, you're right. And as with many low budget slasher films in general, you will see crew members that were also actors and actresses in the film. That Sharon Alley, she will show up as an actress, and I'll try to remember to point her out when it gets to the scene she's in. But Chris may very well be right because the body's moving in the water.
Yeah, it's like
slow.
Yeah, it's like almost like stop motion or something.
And there is a guy in this, an older gentleman, who shows up in the film Final Exam. I think both of these films may have been filmed in North Carolina. So there were a lot of actors from North Carolina that showed up in this same group of movies around the same time. I always thought this looked like a sitcom coming on, or a scene from a sitcom.
Well, now that you mention that, it kind of looks like the Brady Bunch's neighborhood.
It does.
It does. I mean,
And it may, well, I guess technically it wasn't. They filmed it in North Carolina. I'm sure Brady Bunch was probably
California.
California, but it does look, and these shots here remind me, like the outside the store shots remind me of like the Halloween movies,
Yeah.
when they're driving along the streets and stuff.
And Michael broke into the hardware store.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Kid checking out Hustler magazines and stealing them, looks like. So, yeah, I'll save that for later.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick this. I wonder how many kids really did that back in the day.
More than you would think. I mean, I was probably capable of that myself, because they kept the adult magazines and stuff in the same like rack as were like the comic books, and I also like would buy like wrestling magazines and sometimes horror and sci-fi magazines, but all that stuff in my area at least was all right together.
Yeah, I don't know at what point in time that the adult magazines ended up in my hometown back behind the counter.
Right.
There was a time period where they were back behind the counter.
Yeah.
You would see like Playboy and stuff.
That was probably the case at one point, but like I said, my area, just like there's a lot of people here that just don't care. Like, I mean, I remember as a kid going to the flea market and a guy just having a table full of like bongs and boxes full of like porno tapes and magazines, and they were just spread out, and they didn't care if kids came and saw that stuff or not.
No. It was a different time, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, very much so. But and that I didn't get to mention it because it already passed. We already went to the next scene, to the baseball field. But I noticed like the lady in the store was she was stacking RC colas.
Yes.
And I was like, I'm good to see RC Cola prominent in the 80s horror film.
Right.
I love RC.
And the girl that was actually stacking those, that was Susan Keeger. That was
okay.
Susan Keeger. Yeah. I think these were probably what you would call regional horror films. This
Right.
one and Final Exam, stuff like that.
And baseball is not something that you see featured in too many slashers.
Right.
I mean, I know that they play baseball in Sleepaway Camp, and trying to think if there's any others, but you don't see it too much.
I don't guess you would call Blood Games really a slasher film per se, but the women play baseball or softball.
Yeah.
Jerky men. Not that all men are jerky, just that these guys in this particular film, they were bad dudes.
They're the stereotypical chauvinist pigs, you could say.
Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it this way, but Ramona, the waitress, she's pretty much the town whore. I'm just going to put that out there. Most towns have one.
At least she's an attractive whore.
Yeah, exactly. She is attractive. It's basically hinted at later on that she's been with almost every man in town.
So she's almost kind of like the Debbie Sue Voorhees from Friday the 13th Part 5.
Yeah.
Or Tina was her name, I believe.
Yeah, Tina. Beulah. I didn't have anybody named Beulah in my hometown.
Oh, I just seen Candace's comment too in the chat. She said, "Hey guys, can you give Henley a shout out? He got excited, wanted to watch Dana and his Uncle Chris." Hey Henley.
Henley,
I've never seen this movie before, Henley, so I don't know what you're if you're watching along with us. If I can't really prepare you for it, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know if Candace would want Henley to see this movie. Hey, John. He says, "Oh my God, what's going on here? Not death screams."
Is that a
Oh
bad
yeah.
thing, John? Because
Yeah. I don't think John likes death screams very well.
well, I'm about to find out whether I like it or not.
I don't know. I like this one. I don't think John likes Girls' Night Out either, and I'm a fan of
Hmm,
Girls' Night Out as
I
well.
like that one.
One thing I don't miss about the 80s is those shorts that girl has on. I don't like those shorts. John, you say I own the movie and I'm ashamed to admit it. You like Girls' Night Out more? Okay. I don't know. I just have a lot of fun with this one. Is it like a great movie? No. But most of these slasher movies from the 80s aren't.
Is it just me, or is it? Does anybody else feel this way when the the charm part of the charm that I find in these '80s slasher films is the audio sounding like it's drowned out.
Ah, yeah.
For me at least, that's part of the charm of them because, like, because you don't watch movies that come out nowadays and they have that quality of audio. I just felt like that was a whole part of, like, what you get when you watch these old '80s slasher films
Mhm.
is that kind of drowned out audio. It's nostalgic for me, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think that is just the nostalgia of it all. Here's something I got to bring up though, since we're seeing the bodies floating around in the water.
Hmm.
There are shots of these bodies floating around numerous times in the film. It's like, what are the cops doing? I mean, they obviously announced that this couple was missing, but how can you not find them? But I guess it's why ask why. It's a horror film, so. Um, but what I was going to say is, I think nostalgia in general is why a lot of us horror fans keep that either grew up during this time period, whether it was the beginning of the 80s, middle of the 80s, or late in the 80s and into the 90s. The reason why we gravitate and keep gravitating towards these is the nostalgia. I think that's at least 90% of it. And then you've got another 10% that they're fun. You don't have to expend any mind power watching them.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dana.
Uh, John says, I agree. The atmosphere of these is good. I like Funeral Home a lot, but it's not great. Just fun watch. Funeral Home's another great one to watch. Candace says Henley is a faithful Evil Dead chick viewer. Well, I'm glad to have Henley. It's great to have a young fan of the channel. Yeah, this is one of those things where you don't want to have, if you are playing the audio, you don't want to have it too loud because that train shot would scare the crap out of you, especially when you're watching it for the first time. And I didn't bring this character up, but the character of Casey, who is apparently mentally handicapped, but there's another scene that's going to be later when there was evidently an accident that Casey wasn't always like that.
Oh.
Um, but they don't ever fully explain it, unfortunately.
Hmm.
John says slasher films to me are like cornbread. It's just this warm feeling, even the bad ones. Yeah, like mom's homemade cornbread. That's exactly right, John. And he says, I think, like you said, nostalgia and all too.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's a big part of it, and you made a really good point with that, Dana. I think that's why you see so many of these these boutique labeled DVD, Blu-ray companies that release really obscure titles like these, because it's just, those guys that put those together grew up just like we did, watching a lot of these films and having kind of that odd taste and like little obscure films like this, to where they want to watch that stuff over and over, not particularly like mainstream stuff. So it's always good to see that stuff. Like if you think that would, well, that movie would never have a chance on Blu-ray or 4K, but fortunately, that's why we got a
The
lot of these
fans
boutique
keep
companies.
the fans keep this stuff alive. I think this stuff
Definitely.
would die and go away. Um, this lady here, she's been in some other films. What is her name? Helen Tyron or Trine or something
Are
like
you talking
that.
about the older lady, right?
Yeah, yeah. The grandmothers.
Mhm.
I I love this lady, especially in this movie, because she seems like the epitome of everybody's grandma. Right here. Um, so there's going to be a line that every time I watch this, and I don't have the audio on now, but I'm watching the subtitles on here. But
Yeah, I got subtitles on mine as well.
she'll bring up something about this guy that she knows, and her grandma says something to the effect of, if his brains were TNT, he couldn't muster a good fart. So, it's, I could just imagine at least one of my grandparents saying stuff like that.
She, in the face, she kind of looks like Minnie Pearl. I don't know if you know who Minnie Pearl is or not,
Yeah.
um, but she was a big part of like the show Hee Haw and Ralph Emery show back in the day. I don't know if you remember Ralph Emery show.
Yeah, briefly I do.
But yeah, she always wore like the hat with the
Yeah,
tag hanging off of it.
with the little tag. Yeah, I remember her on Hee Haw.
Hmm.
I remember that a lot because my parents watched Hee Haw. That was a staple in our household when I was growing up. Uh, let's see. John says, I rewatched Friday Part 2 on Friday the 13th. I think that movie is a classic. I hate when people say the Friday movies are not good. The first two are amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
The part two is probably my second favorite in the entire series. Um, part five is my favorite,
Hmm.
but I like part two because of the way Jason looks in part two. Before he, got the hockey mask and everything, um, I feel like that's an iconic look, and just knowing how Steve Dash is in person, meeting him a couple different times, I think that adds to it as well,
Hmm.
because Steve Dash was an awesome guy.
He was a character too,
Oh,
wasn't
absolutely.
he? Oh, does anybody remember Pickup Ducks? I remember that. I remember that at the fair when I was a kid.
Speaking of these carnival games that they're playing right here, though, me and Candace, we went to the Black Gold Festival here in Hazard last night, and about a week or so ago, me and Candace watched this guy. He's a comedian. He has a podcast. His name is Theo Vaughn.
Uh,
And Theo Vaughn had this guy he was interviewing on his podcast that had been doing carnival game work for years. And he goes on to tell Theo Vaughn on his podcast how all these games at these carnivals are rigged and how they're rigged. And I'm like, oh, well, I'll never play another carnival game again.
I remember one time at the fair, at the county fair, my dad, I guess he beat their game. he was throwing darts at the balloons. And Dad was a dead eye shot. He popped so many balloons and he kept winning these little stuffed animals. And finally, I guess the guy got pissed off behind the counter that Dad was winning so many stuffed animals that he said, "You've won your limit for the night, sir." And Dave got kind of pissed off
Wow.
that the guy said that to him. It's like, I can't help it because I'm able to pop
Oh,
down balloons.
believe me, if that would have been me, I would have got pissed off too, man. Listen, man, you know, I can't help it. I'm so good at these games.
And speaking of them rigging games, we're going to see the young people one up the guy that's got the games rigged. And it's the one where you take the sledgehammer and you hit the I guess whatever they got down there.
Oh, the bell when you hit the hammer on the thing, it goes up and it has to ring the bell.
Yeah. They do something and they rig it to where they can win. And then one of the girls says, "If I can ring your bell, we get a bear for all three girls, right?" And he's thinking she'll never do it, but they have fixed it so that.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in some kind of show or a movie or something years ago where they had that same game in there, and then like they would let people win every now and then, but most of the time to entice people, like they'd get somebody to win, and then they would entice people to come and if he can win, I can win too.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would like hit some kind of thing to where it would put like a block in the back of the game to where when you hit the thing with the hammer, it would go up towards the bell. It would hit like a block or something that would stop it before it got to the bell. So
that's probably, and here's the thing I'm talking about. So you got this big muscular guy. He's gonna try this, and he can't make it go. And see that the guy is having the greatest time here.
And X-Ray says carnies are scumbags.
Well,
yeah, most of them. I agree.
Batman says, oops, let me scroll back up there. Batman says all the Friday the 13th movies are good, especially some of the shitty ones like Part 8.
Yeah.
Well, I can even enjoy the bad ones, yeah.
It's my favorite horror franchise of all time. Friday the 13th. I think they're all great to me in their own ways.
X-Ray says, my favorite Carney scene is in Darkman when Liam Neeson goes ham on that guy for the pink elephant. It's been so long since I have watched Darkman. I have to go back and watch that again.
My favorite Carney scene would probably be in this episode of the Andy Griffith Show when Opie is trying to win like this set of like a razor or something for Andy for like his birthday or something like that. And then these two guys at the carnival just keep like rigging the game to where Opie can't win, and then he runs out of money and all this. And it's there's a whole like big story to it within that episode. But yeah, love that.
Oh, my husband's in here. I asked him if he wanted to join us tonight, and he's like, no.
I don't know what that little emoji is, but it looks like the star-kissed tuna whale.
Yeah, it does. Oh, that's hilarious. What is that, Steve? Maybe he can tell us what that is.
I think it's just some kind of random blue face.
John says he really likes the Friday remake. The opening of the remake is insane. It is insane. They nailed Jason in a 10-minute sequence. See, there's the bodies again, and nobody ever sees these bodies.
I wasn't really big on the Friday the 13th remake. I didn't hate it, but I'm not real big on it.
I mean, if I had to compare it with some of the other remakes that came out, it passes in the remake department. But if I really want to watch a Friday the 13th movie, I'll go back to the original stuff.
Isn't there a carnival scene in Stephen King's Thinner as well?
Yeah. I think that,
The gypsies.
yeah, I think he may, after he starts getting thinner, I think he may actually go to the carnival in
It
order
seems like there's like a scene. It's been a long time since I've seen Thinner,
to.
but I want to say there's like a scene where like there's a doll of himself within one of the carnival game prizes. But
You could be right, Chris.
I don't know. Maybe I imagine that. Somebody confirm that for me if you've seen Thinner.
I think the last time I watched Thinner was when I was doing Stephen's Kingdom, and when I covered that one, it might have been a while. So you can't really have an early '80s slasher film without having some pot, right? So that's what they're doing here.
Walker, Texas Ranger.
So I don't ever want to make fun of anybody's weight, and I don't want anybody to take it this way. But in these '80s slashers, invariably, if you saw a cop, he was an overweight cop that didn't really do anything.
Kind of like in Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah, yes.
Yep.
Well, I can't say X-ray I've ever smoked the devil's lettuce, and that is the honest truth.
What's that? Never heard of that before.
Never heard that term, Chris? I did not know that, X-ray. You say I read John Candy was approached to star in Thinner.
I actually read that a few days ago. I didn't know that either until I seen somebody post about it on Facebook. Because they said that I think it was Stephen King wanted John Candy for the role because he wanted to help him in getting better health by trying to lose some weight during the making of the film or something like that.
It's interesting. Yeah, there's the line where he says, "You mean you haven't tried him yet?" They're talking about the cop, and she says, "Oh, fart, I bet he can't even get it up." And he says, "You haven't tried him yet?" Those are some pretty good quality stuffed animals too, though.
Yeah. Well, they actually have some pretty good quality stuffed animals at the carnival that was at our festival this weekend. They even had some like plush gizmos as some of the prizes, but I'm like, some of the ones they had, some of the more like really good quality looking ones, I'm like, man, I can't imagine how much money you have to spend to try to win those.
Oh yeah. Now I told you I would tell you when Sharon Alley showed up, who was on the crew, but that girl behind the counter, that is Sharon Alley. So she also has an acting role in this as well.
Okay.
In case anybody's interested, I just like to give little trivia here and there.
Sex maniacs.
Today is National Batman Day, Batman says.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Seems like there's a national everything day nowadays.
And there's my dear husband. He's actually back here. What are you doing, Steve?
Nothing.
What's the little blue emoji dude?
I don't know. It looks like Cookie Monster from
Cookie Monster. Okay. Steve, you ever seen Susan Keeger in an adult film?
I'm sure he has.
He's not. I guess he didn't hear me. Maybe.
No, but I downloaded it. And it's
you downloaded an adult film with her in it?
Yeah.
Is it bad?
No, just the quality isn't very good.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna let this play, Dana. I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay, sure. John, you say so in the 80s. Do you think these filmmakers had a sheet that had slasher rules on it? Or do we just assume that was the mindset? I'd love to go back and see how people talked about it. I don't know. I'm sure there was a formula. And whether it was written down or it was just in the back of their mind somewhere, I'm sure it was there in one form or another. This guy, RC, I think his name, that just got uh, a piece of lemon pie, I believe. That is the guy that I was talking about that also shows up in Final Exam as the night watchman or the campus security at the college. Yes, X-Ray. Steve does love his downloads.
All right, I'm back.
So I was telling everybody, Chris, that I don't know if he'll show up again, but I think he was in one of the beginning scenes in the store. An older guy, and he was the character that just got a piece of lemon pie. He plays the character of RC. He was the guy that also shows up at Final Exam as the campus security on there. So I'm trying to remember what his name was on Final Exam. And
So did you say there's a character in this named RC?
yeah,
I wonder if that has anything to do with the RC Cola that they showed earlier.
it could be. I didn't think
maybe RC Cola got paid off for them to use their name as a character for the film.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I think another reason, and this ties into the nostalgia, is that the reason why I like films like this one and others that are similar is I came from a very small town. I grew up in a small town.
Right.
And to me, this feels like small town. The college kids are coming back home for the summer, and, you know, they're having this carnival, and, you know, it seems like home. It seems like
it also feels like, you know, in amongst the conversations that you see in the film, it feels like it's such a small town that everybody knows everybody. And that's kind of like how it is around here. Like, I live in a very small town. Hazard's a very small town. So, like, I'm sure not everybody knows everybody around here because just things are not as sociable as it used to be years ago and decades ago. But, you know, if you see somebody enough around here, and we live in such a small town, you're going to at least recognize them because we see some of the same people over and over and over. We don't necessarily know them, but you know, back then in this before anything like the internet existed and stuff, you know, all you had to do in a small town was just do stuff within that small town.
exactly.
And you just you got to know people better during those times. Now that the internet has taken over so much, like a lot of people don't even like to leave their house for anything because you can have pretty much everything delivered to you nowadays and all that. My friend Kevin does it because, well, that's because he doesn't have a car currently. So for the past couple of years, he's like a hermit basically.
Mm-hmm. Which, you know, you bringing that up, that people that could get out of their house, people just they point blank don't get out of their house. And, you know, they're content with either, you know, and I like to do this from time to time too, just veg out on the couch and watch movie after movie.
Yeah, who doesn't?
But it's sad when that's all somebody ever does. Either they do that or they sit in front of their computer.
Well, you know? I mean, plus you just don't want to, I don't know if this is just me, but like, you don't want to do something so much to where it becomes boring to you.
Yeah.
And it feels like a chore. Mm-hmm. I feel like you always need to keep stuff fresh with whatever you do, or else you're gonna be depressed and bored all the time.
Yeah, it's it's gonna make you depressed because I felt myself getting depressed before, and I've said this before, I'll keep saying it. I made the choice a while back to work from home, and Chris knows how this is because he works from home as
Yeah.
well. But eventually you get to the point where I have got to get out of the house, I have got to do something, and if I don't, I'm just going to run screaming around the neighborhood or something like that. And people's going to think I'm crazy. Um, so when I got to go to Horror Hound and, got to talk to Candace and Chris, and we went out to eat with them, and the whole experience of, I was just bubbling over with excitement about meeting and Robert England, getting a photo op with him. That just made me feel so much better because I was kind of just busting at the seams to get out of the house.
I know what it's like. Yeah.
Uh,
I wanted to address a question that John had put in here. I don't know if you said anything about while I was gone or not, Dana, but he said, so in the 80s, do you think these filmmakers had a sheet that had slasher rules on it, or do we just assume that the mindset? I'd love to go back and see how people talked about it. I've always felt like, the filmmakers that would come along, like out of the woodwork, basically, would look at what was popular, what worked, like Halloween, Friday the 13th, and some of those, earlier films like that, that Carpenter was putting out, like The Fog, which is not really a slasher, but it was in that same era of horror. I think that like newer filmmakers that were coming forth, or filmmakers that had been around for a while that hadn't really had any success, were just looking at what formulas were in these films to give them that success. So, and that was the whole formula for slashers has always pretty much stayed the same in a lot of ways, at least. So they just kind of like, if that's why they chose to use that formula for so many different films, because if something's working, if it's not broken, why try to fix it?
yeah. So we're getting ready to come up on our second kill of the movie, and this may be why people have a problem with both this film and the other North Carolina film, Final Exam, is that they take their time introducing you to the characters before they really start killing people off. And I think that works for some people and it doesn't work for other people. I'm not saying that's why people necessarily why every person that doesn't like these two films doesn't like them. It could be for other reasons. But I have heard Final Exam, especially, be accused of being too slow to get to action. But the thing about this film that's a little bit different than Final Exam is when the killings start, as they move along and more people are killed off, they get more vicious and gory. Now, you're seeing she was shot with an arrow.
Mm-hmm.
She ran, found this old merry-go-round, and then she suffocated on top of that.
Black Christmas style.
Yeah, exactly.
And now we got Gomez Addams. If Jordy Verrill was Gomez Addams, I guess.
There you go. John says, it's always been fascinating to me, the old genres like that. I'm glad Thanksgiving was made. Hopefully more slashers come out on the big screen. Yeah, I agree.
I definitely agree with that.
John says, in connection with work from home, he says, work from home requires you to go out some during the week, whether it's food or just going to the store. And I think, John, that's why I, and I'm not saying this is Steve's fault. I probably could, you know, take a break or something and walk somewhere close or something like that. But I usually don't get the luxury of going out somewhere to eat or something. I can have DoorDash delivered to me, but when I'm on the clock, it would literally take me too long to get somewhere and get back to my desk. My lunch break or
Yeah.
whatever would be over. I only get 30 minutes, but if I drove, it would be easier. So again, that's sort of my fault that I can't do that.
And I just want to touch on what X-Ray said too. He said he'd love to work from home.
Mhm.
New York commute is such a pain, especially with the increased subway crazes. You know, um, there's a lot of remote stuff out there, X-Ray. You can really just kind of Google it or go to like Indeed.com and just like search for remote. So it doesn't have to be based out of your state. Like you're in New York, it doesn't necessarily have to be in your state for you to work. Because if there's a lot of these jobs that are out there that are 100% remote and work from home, it doesn't really matter. Like the company that I work for, we're based all over the country, but we're 100% work from home. So yeah, there's a lot of that stuff out there nowadays, man. If you're
Yeah.
looking for something like that.
Small Doctors, where I work, is based out of Dallas, Texas. But we got people all over that work from home. We have me here in Louisville. We have a girl that works out of Colorado. So we're all over. So yeah, there are
Same, like the people on my team. I have people from Texas, New Mexico, some I think down in Georgia and Florida. Like most of us are like from Kentucky on my team, but there's some people here and there that are kind of spread out.
Mhm.
So yeah.
If I could say there was one good thing to come out of COVID, COVID was a bad deal. But the one good thing to come out of COVID was that it showed a lot of employers that remote jobs could be a thing.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, they were already a thing, but they became more prominent because of COVID.
Yeah. I think the employers were more willing to allow more job openings that were remote than they were before COVID. John says, I have no desire to ever commute to work in traffic. It makes me furious to sit in
I don't
traffic.
blame him. I don't blame him at all.
No, because Steve hates the traffic here in Louisville. So, but he doesn't want to work from home. When I had COVID the first time around, and he let it slip at work that his wife had COVID, they made him go home and they made him, stay at home for the quarantine period. And he said, I'm never telling them that again. So the second time I got COVID, he said, don't tell anybody in public that you have COVID. He said, please don't.
I kind of hope the grandma on this ends up being the killer.
That would be cool.
But it's probably not. So.
The thing about Susan Keeger, it's I'm not putting her down for the choices that she made, getting into adult films. Some women, that's how they break into acting, and then they will move into more mainstream stuff. But I think Susan Keeger, she had the potential to be a really good mainstream actress.
Unless you're Stephen Jeffries, who did it in reverse.
Exactly.
He started out in just like regular like acting, horror films, Fright Night, 976 Evil, stuff like that. And then he went over to gay porn.
He did.
So
he was kind of
he did that. He did that for quite a while too. Like that was crazy. Like I remember just I remember when I was meeting him years ago, like I didn't know about all that, and I would always go and look at IMDb pages of people that I was going to meet at conventions. And I remember going to Stephen Jeffries' IMDb page, and I'm like, what are all of these like films that he was in? And I learned, I was like, oh, that's
Those
what
are
that is.
those kind of
Okay.
films.
Wow. Yeah, it was interesting to learn that.
X-Ray says, I saw some of Stephen Jeffries' post Fright Night work. Shit was depressing, he says.
Maybe it wasn't depressing for him. If you know what I think you do.
As Joe Bob would say. Now, Chris brought up a good point here. I don't know if we've seen it yet. Maybe it's coming up. When Chris, okay, see, she said the grandma's opening the door. And she's going to turn on the light here. And we're going to see a very large, sharp implement there. That's why I kind of chuckled when Chris said, wouldn't it be funny if the grandma turned out to be the killer? Because they're kind of trying to make it appear that she may be the killer.
Yeah, John, Stephen Jeffries is going to be at Scarefest. Pretty much everybody from Fright Night that's still living is going to be at Scarefest. I think they got like 7 people from Fright Night there now, is including the director Tom Holland. So
I'd kind of like to meet Tom Holland.
I think I'm going to. Like, he was at one of the last couple horror hounds that I went to, but I, for some reason, passed on him. I can't remember why. I think it just been one of those things where I forgot to go meet him or something. But I'm going to try to go meet him at Scarefest, I think. Because I have a Fright Night Laserdisc that's signed by everybody, except him and Chris Sarandon. So I'm going to try to get Chris Sarandon on there as well. I'm
hesitant about Chris Sarandon because I'm sure Chris knows.
Well, I've had experience with him before where I didn't even bother meeting him just because how he was acting at his table. But he's like one of the last ones I need on there. So I was like, I gotta get him. I gotta meet him.
Maybe he'll be different. But,
plus, I'm a big Nightmare Before Christmas fan too, and I know he's gonna be the like Kim Page, who did the voice of Oogie Boogie, is also gonna be at Scarefest. They're gonna have like everybody at that show. And yeah, X-Ray, Marcy Darcy is going to be there. Amanda Beers.
John says, Don Coscarelli is my number one. I met Don Coscarelli a few years back, and he was very nice. Tom Holland and Dick Warlock are up there for me. He says, yeah, with Chris, I don't want to be disappointed, LOL, so I'm going to avoid.
Regardless if I want to be disappointed with him or not, I just need the guy's signature on my laser disc to finish that off. So I'll be like, because I've met probably worse than him, and just to get finish out a piece that I was getting signed. I don't know if I've ever told the Edward Furlong story, but that's it. I'll have to tell it another time because it's very long and aggravating for me to tell.
Yeah, you didn't have too good of an experience with Edward Furlong, did you? X-Ray says Chris Sarandon seems like he could be an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do I like him, what's so bad is not only do I like him in Fright Night, but I also like him in Child's Play.
Yeah. Child's Play, and the main things I know him from is from Child's Play, Fright Night, and he's the voice of Jack Skellington in Nightmare Before Christmas.
So here's the part I was talking about where she says, we're talking about your son, and the cop, the sheriff, his son is Casey, And she says, I wasn't the one doing it. Casey was the one that was driving the car, not me. And he says, you should have died 4 years ago, you little slut. And so there was evidently a car accident, but no, they don't explain, they don't expand on that. It really has no bearing on the rest of the film. So I don't know if they had extra stuff at one time and they cut it, or what exactly was going on there. But Casey is evidently missing now, so. And you also see that the sheriff is married to Casey's mother. It's not like they just had a fling and Casey was the product of that fling. They are actually married.
That's a good question, X-Ray. I'm actually Googling that right now about if he was married to Susan Sarandon or not. I've never heard that, if that's the case, but yeah, okay, yeah, she was. They got married in looks like 1967 and divorced in 1979. I didn't know that. That's wild.
I think I might have wondered if they were related, but then I just didn't think
well, yeah, I probably haven't, but I didn't think that they were, ever married or whatever.
Robert Englund got to spend a little cuddling time with Susan Sarandon in the Great Smoky Roadblock, if you've ever seen that movie.
I'm sure Robert Englund's had a lot of cuddling time with a lot of women.
I imagine he has. Like I said, I respect Robert Englund a lot, but I think Robert Englund's been a ladies' man in his time.
Don't tell Nancy England.
I think he's probably settled down now, but in his younger days, I think he probably was.
You never know. I never would have thought that Dave Grohl would have cheated on his wife with an adult film star, but things happen.
So here's another scene that I was always confused by in this movie. So this appears to be the coach. And he heard a noise and he's climbing up in, I guess, in his garage or whatever, where his car is at. And this is a very strange thing that happens.
This guy feels like the guy that's kind of goofy acting here. He feels like a lost character from the Porky's movies or something.
Yeah, he does. I didn't think about that. So you see the machete or whatever. It was like somebody got their head cut off, but you don't know exactly what's happening there. Maybe they did that on purpose just to make us confused. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Robert Englund. I wasn't lying when I said he was on my bucket list. I don't know. There's something very distinguished about Robert Englund, and I'm not saying I'd want to sleep with him or anything like that. I'm not going to say that, but I respect the man, and in some ways, when you respect someone, that makes them seem desirable. It makes them seem kind of romantic in a way. If I could be so bold as to say that. I hope his wife doesn't ever see videos, because she'd be like, what are you doing talking about my husband that way? But I have even heard other actresses that have worked with him say that. I heard Tuesday Night say that his swagger and stuff, even as Freddie, when he had the makeup on and everything, he says it makes him sexy in a way.
I don't understand the appeal of Tuesday Night. She was in Nightmare 4 for like 15 minutes. And she thinks she's some like huge celebrity.
I've never met Tuesday Night, just seen like, talking head interviews with her.
There's a whole story behind how I feel about Tuesday Night. And and it goes back years. I'm sure Candace might tell you about it sometime, but it's like it's really stupid to the point where she blocked me on Facebook.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Let's see. John says, I told Adrian at Scarefest they need to get Carpenter and Russell together for a photo op. I know it's not going to happen, but I'm putting it in the universe. That would be awesome. That would be so awesome if they could. Oh, yeah, X-Ray. I forgot about the Grape. We got to be careful. Grape revenge movie called Lipstick. I don't know that I've seen all of Lipstick, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Batman says, I'm either too broke or Ronald McDonald is using that crack whip on me. Oh, man. Well, Freddie's not really sexy to me per se, but Robert Englund, the man, has a certain romantic aura about him.
Is it just me, or is whenever you look at pizza, you're instantly reminded of Freddy Krueger?
I've been reminded of Freddy Krueger with pizza.
Every time I see it, that's one of the first things I think of is Freddy Krueger because, I mean, just because of the makeup that he, it kind of looked like melted cheese with pepperonis, and also in Nightmare 4, like there's the soul pizza, where he picks the little meatballs and stuff off of it.
And I actually made a Freddy Krueger soul food pizza.
Oh, that's right, you did. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to get to see some more nudity, guys. The blonde here is going to soon be getting, as Joe Bob would say, naked. I'm thinking of ordering from Papa John's right now. Well, not really. I'm still a little full now. Maybe
Candace actually got Papa John's earlier. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Papa John's.
People laugh at me when I say I prefer Domino's, because a lot of people don't like Domino's.
I couldn't tell you. I've never had Domino's.
You never had Domino's?
No. I've never lived in an area where there was a Domino's. So.
Well, we have a Domino's. We have several Domino's here in Louisville, but Steve is a big Papa John's guy.
I mean, I'll eat Papa John's, but it has to be the Alfredo sauce on the pizza. I don't like the regular pizza sauce. It just has a very strange taste to me.
So I think there's another scene coming up that's in. He's looking for Neil. The sheriff's looking for Neil, the coach, and he's he's kind of creeping around the house and stuff. And this is another thing that's never explained in this movie, because he's going to go in the garage, and it's going to appear here in a second that a body drops down. And we're not sure.
Does your version have extra scenes or something? Because I'm at a part right now where the blonde is like walking along the riverbank.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think you might be watching a different version from me.
Oh, crap. That's not good. Because the sheriff saw blood and then something dropped down real quick.
Oh, yeah. I've not watched that yet. There's this chicken, like a leopard skin or something. Oh, the machete just sliced this blonde chick's throat.
Okay, so
yeah, I think
you're ahead of me a little bit, so I'm going to try to get mine.
Okay, yeah, I think that maybe you said you were watching the Blu-ray, right?
Yep.
It might be. Yeah, there might be some extra scenes in yours or something. Extended scenes, at least.
So I'm trying to get it kind of. Sorry about that, Chris. I didn't
Oh
know.
no, you're fine. You're fine. I just looked at what when you were describing it, I was like, I think she may be watching a different version from me.
So where are you at now, Chris? Because I'm.
Well, this guys like Sandy, they're looking for Sandy. I guess Sandy is the one I'm guessing that just got her throat slashed by a machete.
Okay, let me know when they start talking about going to the cemetery.
Okay.
And I'll start playing mine again because.
This chick named Lily is like, Lily, you look fantastic.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a bra and her nipples are protruding through her pink
Like,
shirt.
he has a transformation from the very stoic, like maiden or whatever, to the hot chick, with her nipples showing.
Now they're just kind of sitting around a campfire laughing and drinking beer. I don't know if that's any is close to where you're talking about, because this is my first time watching this, so
Okay.
I'm not sure what.
So
what
Ramona's
happened.
talking about we're going to have to be heading back, and they're sitting around the campfire.
I just said heading up for the cemetery as they just started talking about it.
Okay. Lily's got flowers in her hair and everything else.
Me neither, Tom. Tom Baker says, I've never seen
Yeah,
this
he
movie.
says I've never
Yeah,
seen
this is my first time.
So they're gonna go pile in the pickup now. Or at least that's where I'm at. They're picking all the stuff up. John says, I have a few stories about Nightmare 4 involving
I was just reading that.
Mick Strawn and Danny Hassel. I'll have to tell y'all sometime. One involves a video Mick asked us to play in an interview I did with him. Oh boy, this sounds intriguing, John.
The only times I believe that I've ever seen Mick Strawn at a convention was one of the times I've been to FrankenCon, because I think he's been at every single FrankenCon since they started, and he always brings his dog with him.
Oh, okay. John says it's an animated thing he made explaining something about the movie. Oh, well, he showed the same damn thing at FrankenCon, and I was laughing so hard. He's one of the most oddball dudes ever, and he's always got that dog.
He does. He does always have his dog.
So, Chris, what are your thoughts overall on this movie so far? Because we're getting about to the last quarter of the film.
I don't dislike it or anything, but it's pretty standard. Like, it feels like it's pretty standard, and the story is kind of generic.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's enjoyable to watch. Like, because I've watched a ton of slashers, and a lot of them will feel like the same movie you've watched time and time before. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you just kind of got to look at it as like, I don't know, like it's like, because even though the story feels the same, the characters are kind of unique in their own ways with each film too.
Right.
And which they're not super overly unique in this, but because a lot of like characters, like how they're portraying the roles and stuff, feels like characters that I've seen before in other films. But that's just how slasher films are. I think that's the overall charm of them, is like, a lot of them can be the same and similar. It's just that's just how the formula works with these films.
Right. I think that horror films, or at least slasher films, that cookie cutter aspect works for these things.
Mhm.
So, are you to the part where he's like Satan's mass will now begin?
Well, they're lighting like a fire right now at the cemetery,
Okay.
and this guy's coming up from behind the tombstone,
yeah.
laughing with skull mask and top hat.
Okay. So we're almost right together. Maybe a little.
And it, I mean, while it's interesting, but like the transition from scene to scene, it feels like all over the place at times with this as well. Like it's just crazy to think we went from being at a carnival to a cemetery,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
there's not much explanation to why that.
Yeah, I think they talked about it at the carnival when they were talking about getting together, when everybody was sitting around eating burgers and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
but at that point, especially if you're watching it for the first time, you don't know if that's the
Well,
direction.
yeah, that's another thing. Like, I'm gonna need to watch this again, like just on my own. I think because we've also been talking and stuff and just conversing about random stuff as well. So it's kind of hard to keep my full attention on it. But I think that's the beauty in being able to watch something a second time, because there's always things in there that you will notice that you didn't notice the first time around.
Yeah, exactly. And I can usually, even if it's a movie I've seen many times, I can usually find something new to like about it. Sometimes I have to wait a little bit and then watch it again. Um, Chris was talking about, you know, getting, kind of, it gets kind of boring and depressing when that's all you do is maybe sit around in front of your computer or sit and watch the same movies over and over
Well,
again.
just anything really.
Yeah,
It
anything
could be anything, as
repetitive.
long as if you're doing like the one particular thing over and over and over, and that's all you do. I
Mhm.
mean, that it can end up being boring for you, and you don't ever want that. If it's especially if it's something you care about, something you like, you don't ever want that to become boring for you.
I brought this up before, or I brought it up several times, that I can always tell when I have watched a movie too close, and not allow myself a greater space of time before I watch it again. And I tend to do this with like the Friday the 13th films, or the Nightmare on Elm Street films, or the Halloween films, something like that that's a franchise. Because my mind will start to wander, and I'm not paying attention to the movie. I'll be looking at stuff around me, or looking at my phone, or looking at my tablet if I have it out. Steve's like that too. I'll catch him looking at his laptop. That's how I know that, hey, Dana, you need to wait a while before you watch this film again, because you're not getting the enjoyment out of it. Movies are fantastic, Tom. I agree with that. I agree with that too, Tom. When you think you've seen them all, you keep discovering more great movies. My mom told me one time, she said, Dana, as many horror movies as you have seen in your lifetime, you surely have seen all of them. I said, no, Mom, not like it's a drop in
Oh,
the
she
bucket.
has no idea then. 'Cause
I'm still
there are. Let me tell you something. Like, there are so many horror films out there. Like, you will never be able to have enough time to watch them all.
not even
Uh,
if we had 2 or 3 lifetimes, I don't think.
um, if you just like go to Tubi, like on and go on the bar on Tubi, like I
Yeah.
did. I think I've told this once before, but like, um, we were looking for like killer clown movies, so we just put in clown in the search bar on Tubi, and there are an ungodly amount of clown horror films out there that I've never even heard of.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's crazy, and it's like that with every little subgenre in horror too. So yeah, I just feel like there's so many out there, including all the indie films and stuff that are out there. Like you'll never be able to see them all. I think it's impossible.
John says Vinegar Syndrome keeps finding movies in the back of barns in Alabama and random abandoned Kmart.
Yeah,
I
well
wouldn't doubt
that's
it.
possible. You know, it's he's not lying when he says that. I mean, a lot of these when Vinegar Syndrome has these big sales and stuff, or they're announcing new titles, um, like majority of them, I'm like, I have no clue what these films are. I've never heard of these in my life. Um, I mean, there'll be a few here and there that I know of, but majority of of them they release, I'm like, man, these are the first time I'm hearing about these movies. Um, you know, as much as like Screen Factory gets shit on, at least everything that they put out, I pretty much heard of at some point before it was released through them.
Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing Diddle has to not only, take a pee, but he's got to take a crap as well or take a dump. And there's an outhouse that he's going to have to go because they had to leave the cemetery because it started raining. So there's this house on the property that I guess the caretakers of the cemetery lived in at one time. So that's where they're at. And we are going to have another kill coming up. So they're planning on scaring Diddle. They say, we're going to give him a chance to do his business, and then we're going to go out there and scare the hell out of him. So Diddle's going out to the outhouse.
What's his name again?
Diddle?
Diddle?
Yeah, that's what they call him. I don't know if that's like a nickname.
Well,
Yeah, I can imagine why they call him that, too.
yeah. I'll leave it at that.
This guy is one of those goofy, like, I hate to say it because I felt like a third wheel sometimes, but he is literally one of these third wheel characters that tries to act ultra goofy to get people to pay attention to him.
Well, yeah, he's the guy I was talking about that felt like he was like a lost character from one of the Porky's movies because they all kind of dressed that way as well, and like they were all goofy acting in Porky's, and like he feels like he's like the comedy relief, kind of like Shelly from Friday the 13th Part 3.
So he's going to get scared here by a raccoon.
Biting right on the balls.
He said, I may be constipated for the rest of my life. I would think that would have the reverse effect on you. If you got scared, you wouldn't be constipated. So we see the raccoon coming out of the outhouse, and the other kids have decided it's time to scare Diddle now. And Diddle's been eviscerated, looks like. John, I have seen Frostbiter. I actually own Frostbiter. That has some great scenes in it. I need to do a watch along for Frostbiter at some point. Oh my gosh. Are you talking about the Chili song, John? You say it's not good, but there's a song in that movie that's hilarious. It's like a parody of 90s country. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about or not, but there's a guy that's cooking. Oh, okay, it is. There's a guy cooking chili in a cabin, and he's singing about how good this chili is. It's so funny.
It sounds like they kind of took that from Texas Chainsaw too.
Yeah.
I have not seen Frostbiter, by the way, John.
Oh man, I might have to introduce you to that one, Chris. We may have to do a watch along for that one soon. I'm glad John brought that up. I think Frostbite is also one of me and Steve's lost commentaries. I think we need to do another one. So this is when the killings kick into high gear because first Diddle got killed, and the other two of the other kids are running out to the truck.
What year did this come out?
I want to say 82. Chris.
82?
Yeah.
Let me see.
But I can't remember if this was one of these that was made and then it took a while, it got shelved or something. Oh, I like this scene where the girl gets in the truck and she's and Walker's head falls off.
It says that this came out in 86. That was the year I was born.
Okay. So maybe it might have been filmed in 82 and maybe got shelved. Maybe that's where the confusion with me is.
Oh, that dude's head just fell off.
Yeah. Yeah, and did he or did he not have the longest neck ever? I know that was a fake head, but
I've seen some people with some pretty long necks.
so then the other guy's looking for Walker and Sheila, and it's not ending well for them. I'm going to pause mine for just a second so I'm not so far ahead of Chris. The thing is, this might be a little slow at the beginning, but like I said, when it kicks into high gear and people start really getting killed off, it kind of just goes bam, 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 just all at once. Has the guy fell in the open grave yet on your end, Chris?
He just did.
Okay. So we're pretty close now. And, ooh.
Oh, no. Chopped his finger.
Mm-hmm. And I like that shot where it shows the hands and they're still moving.
Oh, he chopped. Oh, okay. I thought he chopped his finger. He chopped his whole hands off.
Chopped the whole hands off, yeah. And then the killer, he must have been pretty daggone close because he makes it to the house where the rest of them are at.
There was a time jump there.
He teleported or something.
Yeah, he teleported. That music too is pretty Friday the 13th inspired. Yeah. Harry Manfredini's gonna sue somebody.
So Ramona is freaking out and she falls through the steps. Something tells me this is not going to end. So they're trying to pull Ramona up out of there. And she's screaming a lot.
The hell?
And
wow.
The killer evidently severed her
I wasn't expecting that.
Mm. So Chris has probably got some ideas about who the killer could be. So we're shortly going to be seeing who the killer is. And
Well, really, it could have been anybody in this movie. There's so many characters in this movie.
so, can you tell who it is, gang?
Who is that guy?
It's Neil. It's the coach.
Oh, because since there's so many characters in this movie, I was like, that guy looks familiar, but I don't remember who he was.
So he said, y'all are sluts just like my mama, and evidently Neil's mother was a whore basically, and so that is a
so that's who the cop had been looking for the whole time too, right?
Yeah. So here's the cop. He shows up at the 11th hour. And
God. Just blew his brains out.
Yep. That head just exploded like there was some TNT in it.
The ending of this with the ambulances and everything gives me Friday the 13th Part 2 vibes.
Yeah.
Which, a lot of the Friday the 13th kind of end like that.
And Lily asked the sheriff, why would Neil do this? He says, I don't know. It's just like they're like, we're not going to explain it. And nobody they didn't find the couple from the beginning, and they didn't find the other girl, the blonde, either. Sandy. Nobody ever found them.
Jennifer Chase, but like the C is not all the way there.
Oh, yeah, that's weird. I never noticed that. I wonder if that was like print damage or something.
I don't know what happened there.
Helene Tryon, that was Edna Sharp. That was the grandma.
Oh, RC's actual real name was RC.
That's right. Yeah, I'd forgotten that. That was his real name. So what'd you think, Chris? Overall, after I know you're gonna have to sit down and kind of.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it again to really give you how I accurately feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
But on first watch, it was okay. I just, like I said, there's times there, where I felt a little bit lost and kind of forgot, who some of the characters were. But I think that part of that's my fault because I was just conversing with you and chat and stuff about other things. And if I could sit down and watch it again and like give my full attention to it, I'm sure that I may end up liking it more because that seems to happen with me a lot with films I watch. But right off the bat, I like what I did understand of it, and I'm excited to watch it again.
And this was actually filmed in Shelby, North Carolina, and I believe that's where Final Exam was filmed as well. And it was the town of Lake Lure, which is unusual.
Shelby, North Carolina. Isn't that where Darcy's from? Or somewhere around there in North Carolina?
She may be.
Yeah. Or is she from? No, wait a minute. No, I believe she's from South Carolina is where I think she's from.
See, now the date says 1980.
It does. It says 1981, but when I looked it up online, it says it was shown under the House of Death title, release year 1986.
So I'm just wondering if it was shelved.
Yeah, that's possible. They could have filmed it in '81, and it didn't get a full release until like 5 years later or something like that.
They could have
I
ran
don't.
out of money, or anything may have happened. Um,
Who knows?
but I actually I enjoyed rewatching this again with everybody. We had a pretty decent crowd in here tonight, and people were talking in the chat, which is always good. I hope for those of you that maybe have not seen this movie before, if you came in the middle or the latter half of it, I hope you will seek it out. I mean, you can watch it on YouTube. I'm not sure what the disconnect was between my Blu-ray and what the version Chris was
Oh.
watching, but there must have been missing a scene or two.
But yeah, definitely, I could advise people like this is not a movie that you want to watch. Start watching it right in the middle of it.
No, not really.
Because,
Not if you want to get something out of it.
yeah, I can tell you that, and also you may just want to give your full attention to it too if you've never seen it before. Because I think that was my mistake here, is maybe why I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. But I just need to watch it again at some time in my free time to try to give a better evaluation of it.
Well, if I had thought, which I don't think too often, unfortunately, I could have gave Chris the link to it way earlier today, and maybe he could have watched it.
Well, it probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't have got to do that anyway because, like I said, this was kind of a spur of the moment thing where I finally had some free time pop open. So I said, well, okay, I'll do this stream with Dana. So yeah, like because we took the boys to the parade today, and then I was kind of helping off and on Candace with her schoolwork for college. So just yeah, so like around it was like 6 something. Like Candace said, "Hey, are you going to do that stream with Dana?" I was like, "Oh, I forgot she was doing one," and I was like, "What's she doing?" And then right after I said, "What is she doing?" You had sent me the link for StreamYard and the link to the movie. I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I've never seen that movie, but I'll do it with her. I'll watch it."
It's always fun to watch these, with a friend, and when Chris comes on, when Candace comes on, used to when John had more time and he came on, it was always fun. I always when Batman, if you're still in here, when Batman would come on, it was fun.
Well, I think John was with us throughout the whole stream tonight, so
I think
he could have joined us and watched along with us.
Well,
on video.
There's going to be hopefully more opportunities, but I did want to remind everybody that tomorrow night is Phenomena, the Dario Argento film starring Jennifer Connelly, and that will start at 7 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night. But I am hoping we have a pretty decent crowd for that one. I'm hoping, number one, I'm hoping Candace feels better in any event, whether she can join me for the watch along or not. But if she is feeling better, I'm hoping that maybe both her and Chris can
I'm going to try my best too. That's Phenomena is probably my second favorite Argento film next to Suspiria.
Right.
So, and I think it's awesome. I think the whole premise of the film is amazing.
Yeah.
I think Donald Pleasance is amazing in it.
I love Donald Pleasance.
Jennifer Connelly. I mean, because I can't remember how old Jennifer Connelly was in that, but she does a fantastic job for her age in that.
Yeah, I think she was pretty young. I can't remember her exact age, but I don't know how. Speaking of Jennifer Connelly, I don't know how many of y'all have watched the Snowpiercer show, but Jennifer Connelly has a major part in that show.
Snowpiercer, is that the one with Mads Mikkelsen or whatever his name is?
I don't know. I would need Steve here to.
Man, look, because there's a it's not a show, but there was like a movie that was on Netflix. It seems like it was under the same name, Snowpiercer. Let me look and see.
I think this series is based on a book, I believe, and it just ended. The series just ended. Steve watched the last episode the other day.
I don't know what I was thinking of, but like there was a Snowpiercer movie from 2013 that had Chris Evans and Tilda Swinton in it, and Ed Harris, and John Hurt. But I've never seen. I think I remember that movie, but I've never seen it. But there was what was the movie I was thinking? You know who Mads Mikkelsen is, right? He was in the Hannibal TV show.
Oh, okay.
What was that movie I'm thinking of that he was in? It's called Polar. It was on Netflix, and basically, I don't know if you ever played any of the Metal Gear Solid video games, but like the movie Polar that he was in kind of reminds me of that Snake character from the Metal Gear Solid games. It's worth checking out if you've never seen that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a way. It came out in 2019. It's pretty good.
Speaking of video games, Steve was telling me about some. I don't know how many of you guys and gals in here played the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre game.
I haven't yet.
There's an update to it, a Jallo update to it, and I'm kind of intrigued by that.
A Jallo update with the Texas Chainsaw game?
Yeah. I was like, I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm intrigued.
I don't either.
I'd probably have to have Steve explain it to me, but he said, "Did you see that link I sent you?" I said, "Yeah, something about multiplayer and update to Texas Chainsaw Massacre game." He said, "Yeah, but there's a Jallo aspect to it now in the update." I'm like, okay. Yeah.
I need to look into that because I've not played the game yet, but I know it's in the same vein of like the Evil Dead game that came out a few years ago.
It's hard as hell is what it is, Chris. I haven't, but you know.
Have you played that Evil Dead game, Dana?
Yeah, it's hard as hell too. But
yeah.
Guys and gals, I suck at games. I don't even know why I bother buying games, but
have you played? Are you or Steve? Have you played the game called The Quarry?
I think maybe Steve has.
So that game is awesome.
Is that the one that's got Ted Raimi in it?
It's got Ted Raimi. It's got David Arquette. It's got Lynn Shay. It's got Michael Berryman. There's a ton of people in it. And it's got multiple outcomes in the game based off decisions.
Yeah,
it's so Candace got it and the Evil Dead game for me a couple years ago for Christmas. The Quarry is awesome. If you're a horror fan and you like any of those names that I gave out that are in the game, check it out because like they're not just doing the voices of these characters; it's their actual likenesses in the game.
Yeah, I saw Ted Raimi and I saw David Arquette too. I was like, wow, this is.
I got it, and I would if I knew where it was. So now I go grab it and show what the case looks like to everybody. But I don't know where it is right now, honestly.
And The Quarry was a game that I wanted to play, but like I said, I'm not a big gamer, and I suck at most games.
Well, I'm not as big with gamers as I used to be, but I still like to play them occasionally.
So, Chris, is there, I don't want to rush anybody off here if there's something that people want to discuss in the chat. Or Chris, is there anything on the horizon for you that you want to talk about? Or
well, right now, like I'm just focused on Scarefest.
Me too.
As far as like stuff like that goes, I've already got my ticket for Saturday, and got my photo op with Clive Barker. So I'm kind of curious of how they're going to handle that, because they've already kind of gave the information out that if you're going into that room to meet him at his table to get an autograph or whatever, you have to wear a mask in there to meet him, but you're not required to wear a mask, and he's not going to be wearing one either in the photo ops. So that's led me to question, like, how are these photo ops going to be handled?
Yeah.
Is he going to be on like an opposite side of like a glass, or like
that's what I was
plastic
wondering.
window things, or are they going to have you like positioned behind a line, like where they put like the tape on the floor during these photos, and maybe he's like sitting in front of you at a distance?
Right.
I'm just curious of how that's going to be handled. But I did speak with one of the girl that kind of helps bring in the talent for Scarefest every year. Now, she's been doing this for them for the past 2 or 3 years now, I think. Her name's Adrian, and so she's expecting that where they have so many guests this year, they have, I believe it's right now, a total of 101 guests as far as celebrities go. She's expecting the lines for each to not be as big as people are thinking they're going to be. Because they're going to have Clive Barker, they're going to have Matthew Lillard, they're going to have Nick Castle, they're going to have a lot of these other Scream guests. So they're going to have to divide all these people, these lines up,
right?
Somehow, like, not everybody's going to be jumping in Clive Barker's line at the same time.
Right.
That would leave out people in line for Matthew Lillard or anybody else, some of the bigger name guests at the show. So maybe she may be right on that, but I also did tell her, I said, you never really know, because crowds are kind of unpredictable for when it comes to stuff like that at these shows. I can remember back in 2010, when I first met George Romero. It was at Horror Hound in Indianapolis, March of 2010.
Was that when the fire marshal got called?
No. That was about 3 years later, when they did the first Cincinnati show in the convention center of Horror Hound.
Okay.
And but in 2010 March, Indianapolis, when I met Romero, I waited close to an hour and a half for him, and it was snowing outside at the time. And the line went outside, and so I was standing outside for about 30 to 45 minutes.
Oh, holy hell.
Before I got into the line started moving along, and then, like I said, about an hour and a half total I waited for Romero. Later that same year, he was at Scarefest in Lexington, and there was no line. I walked on a Friday. It was a Friday. I walked straight up to George Romero, no line.
I think that's where I met George Romero at, was Scarefest.
That was Candace's second ever convention she went to, and she was a fan of Romero. She knew who he was and his films and everything, and I had prepared her for this. I was like, hey, I'm going to meet Romero again, so I want you to meet him too. But we probably will be waiting in line for a while for him, because, he's one of the bigger name guests at the show this year. And no, we just walked straight up to him.
I don't think me and Steve waited in a long line. And Steve, in the last several years, Steve has gotten out of the, like, if it was Argento, it'd be one thing.
Yeah.
But these other people, he's just like, just like whenever I was getting pictures with Paul Clemens at this past Horror Hound and Peter Cowper, they asked him if he wanted to be in the picture with me and Paul Clemens, and he said, "Oh, no, I'm okay."
Well, it's different for everybody. Everybody's different in how they perceive, the people they like in films or whatever. Like, right now there's one of the big things amongst the younger generation of fans that are starting to come to these shows is, Scream and a lot of like newer released horror. Like, Abigail was a big, huge. Those Abigail guests at Horror Hound were a huge hit. Which one of the girls from the new Scream films, Melissa Barrera, she's also in Abigail as well, and then Catherine Newton, who's in Abigail, is also in Lisa Frankenstein, and she's in a lot of other things coming out here recently. So those type of guests don't really appeal to me personally, but I can understand how they would for other people.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of like how Steve is. Like those people don't appeal to him real big to where he cares to meet them. So I kind of get it. I kind of get it. Like,
But
because
he
wanted to meet Paul Clemens, but he's not necessarily on like a list for Steve.
yeah, right.
He's really not on a list for me either, but I would like to meet him. I
He
kind of
was
wish I
very
had
nice. Very nice.
but yeah, it's everybody's different when it comes to meeting these people. Like, some of them are not as important to you. Like, Argento would be a huge one for me. That would not even be a question in my mind.
That's
Like,
a bucket list for Steve. If he has anybody on a bucket list,
like, he's a bucket list guy for me. Pamela Springsteen is a bucket list person. Jessica Harper is a bucket list person for me. I don't think Pamela or Jessica I don't think they'll ever do a convention. But you never say never. They may one of these days. But Batman Nerd said he wondered how much Doug Bradley.
Yeah.
Doug Bradley is, I believe, still $40 for an autograph, and you get a free picture with him when. But there is one thing about Doug Bradley, and he's one of the very last few people that does conventions still that does this. To get a picture with him, you're not required to buy anything from him.
I did not know that about Doug Bradley, but it's good to know.
Yeah, he was at Scarefest last year, and he was offering free photos with anybody that wanted them. And because I've seen several people going up and just meeting him, just getting a picture with him. They didn't pay anything. I mean, it says that he has it like right on his table. It says that photos with Doug are free.
Right.
And someone told me, I didn't know this, but I did get it confirmed by a few different people. But Greg Nicotero will also take free photos with you. No charge. So, and he's going to be at Scarefest this year as well. So if you want,
I might have to go up and meet.
Yeah, I probably want to. I mean, if that's the case, if he's still offering that, yeah. I mean, I don't think that's not even a question. I'm definitely going to go try to get a free picture with Nicotero. I've got a bunch of stuff signed from him in the past. I remember when I met him, that same show I was just referring to earlier that I met Romero at for the first time, which is in Indianapolis in March of 2010. When the picture, it's actually one of my favorite convention photos I've ever taken is with Nicotero, because he has the head from the Fluffy puppet from Creepshow.
Oh yeah.
And he has like behind me, like he's like coming up above me.
You're right.
And I thought that was awesome. He's a really nice guy too.
I have never met Greg Nicotero, but since I'm going to be at Scarefest and he's going to be at Scarefest, I might just have to meet him.
Yeah, I mean, you could. I think he's like, if you want an autograph, I think it's like 50 or 60 or something. But like, if you just want a photo with him, yeah, from what I'm being told, there's no charge on that. But I can confirm that on Doug Bradley for sure, though. If you ever were to get out to a convention, Batman Nerd, and you wanted to meet and you saw Doug Bradley was at that convention you were going to, I highly suggest meeting him, because I met him very early on too, going to conventions. The first Scarefest I ever went to back in 2009, Doug Bradley was one of the very first people that I met at that Scarefest, and I'll never forget, he was wearing an Abominable Dr. Phibes shirt.
That's cool. Yeah, I don't know. There's something, people talk about how astronomical the prices have gotten for
Well,
everything.
yeah, for a lot
For
of
the
it, yeah.
most part they have. But people may think $40 is too much, which is what I gave for Peter Cowper's autograph
Mhm.
and for
Well,
Paul Clement's autograph. But they let me take a picture for
yeah.
free with them well, actually, it was Steve's phone. Steve took the pictures.
That's pretty much the norm. 40 is like the norm nowadays. If you're lucky, there's some people that are starting to push towards the 50 and 60
Mm,
prices, but there's still some out there they'll still do the 40. And a lot of those guys that do the 40 and free photo with them are either like one of Sean Clark's clients or Dominic Mancini's clients. Which Dominic he I believe his what is his company? I think it's called Full Empire.
mm,
It's like a mixture of the names of Charles Bands because Dominic's a big, huge Charles Band guy,
right.
so that's why he named like his company based off of that. But he does that. There's a few other agents I think that does that with their clients, but not all of them. Like I know Tom Atkins is handled by Sean Clark, but he's one of the people that's Sean's clients that charges for an autograph
Yeah,
and a photo separately,
yeah,
or you can do like the combo for like a price in between.
right.
Um, but there's very few out there that will give you like pretty good deals. Like I feel like if you just want a photo with Doug Bradley, it's free. That's awesome of him to do that. I know PJ Souls when
Yeah.
she's $40 an autograph, but if you get two autographs from her, it's still $40.
Hmm.
So, but it's like a buy one get one free with her.
Felissa Rose, it was kind of like that for me, and I think I give maybe like when I met Felissa Rose, I think it was maybe $25 or something for the first autograph, and I had her sign my Blu-ray
Mhm.
of Sleepaway Camp. And also had Kathy Kami, who played Meg in there.
Mhm.
She signed it too. But when Felissa signed my Blu-ray, she also told me to pick out any picture that she had on her table, and she would sign it for me, no additional cost.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Felissa Rose, if you ever get a chance to meet that woman, I suggest you do so.
Yeah, I met her several years ago. She's so nice. She'll just the experience with her is worth it no matter what really you're paying because she tries to include you and make you feel welcome as much as she possibly can. She's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet at these shows. Um, I remember when I met her years ago at a Scare Fest. Um, not only did I talk to her about Sleepaway Camp, but I was talking to her about her husband, Darren Miller,
Mhm.
who was, he was the lead singer for a band that I really like called CKY.
Mhm.
So I remember when she signed my Sleepaway Camp DVD, she signed, Felissa Rose, Angela, and she wrote CKY Rocks.
Uh-huh.
And she was actually at that time because where I had talked to her about that, she was trying to call her husband on her phone to get me to talk to him, but
Oh,
she never
wow.
could. She never could get a hold of him, and she's like, come back later, and I'll try again for you. Um, but I never did come back around later. So, but that was just super nice and generous of her to try to do that when she didn't have to. But yeah, she's somebody you definitely should. If somebody out there watching has not met Felissa Rose and you go to conventions and you have that opportunity to meet her, take it because she's one of the nicest people you ever give money to.
And I would echo that for Kathy Kami too.
Mhm.
She was so sweet to
I've
me,
I've
and
not got to meet her yet.
I don't know, I don't see her at many conventions, but when I saw that she was going to be at the same one that, well, actually, I met Felissa first at one convention, and then the next time, Kathy Kami was there and Felissa was there.
Well, technically, I did meet them because, see, I did that sleepaway camp photo op at Scarefest last year.
Oh, that's right.
And Felissa's in that, and Catherine Kami's in that, and I can't remember her name. That plays Judy was there. The guy that played Paul was there.
Karen Fields is Judy.
Yeah, Karen Fields. The guy that played Mike was there. So I got that photo of it. So I technically met them, but I didn't like. It was like a split.
It was probably real quick.
And so I didn't really get to. I didn't go up to their tables or anything because their lines last year, where it was like the whole sleepaway camp reunion thing they were doing, they were huge. And Felissa had one of the longest lines at the show.
I think word has got around about her numerous times.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing is what it is too. But yeah, maybe one of these days I'll see her and get to kind of have a regular conversation with her.
Yeah. Steve chimed in just now. He says he loves the Chili song from Frostbiter. Yeah, I really am gonna have to upcoming introduce Chris and anybody else that hasn't seen Frostbiter to the Frostbiter film. I love introducing people to movies.
Yeah, I'll definitely try to watch it at some point. And tomorrow's my last day of my vacation, Dana. Gotta go back to work on Monday.
It's going to be rough, isn't it, Chris? Because I know when I have a week-long vacation, it's always rough when I
Well, my schedule's changing too on Monday.
That's what Candace was saying.
Because usually I would go in it between like 9 and 9:15 almost every day. And now they have changed my schedule to where the earliest I'll be coming in is at 10. And possibly on some days, the latest I'll be coming in is at 10:45. Mm-hmm. So the latest that I possibly would be working would be 7:15, which I'm not crazy about because I'm usually used to getting off at like 5:30, 5:45. Yeah. But it is what it is. I gotta obey the rules.
That's why I didn't like working that late Friday this past Friday. I was like, oh. Can we get to 7 o'clock so I can get the heck out of here? I'm used to on Fridays getting off way early, so this was about to kill me. Doing that.
But that won't last forever, like because we do this at my job every 6 months. They're called shift bids. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was really my fault this time around that I got a different schedule. Because I was one of the very last few to send my form back into them. But I lucked out, even though I was so late getting my form in, I lucked out because of my stats and everything at work. So they go based off that. They go based off seniority because I've been there for over 5 years now. So, yeah, I'm lucky I got what I got.
I'm sorry, I was looking down at my phone. I was supposed to get an Amazon order delivered today, and I knew it wasn't going to make it here because it kept saying arriving today by 10 p.m. Now it says arriving tomorrow by 10 p.m. I'm like, yeah, you little boogers. And I better get that stuff tomorrow because I'm going to be upset.
I got an Amazon order in yesterday. It was the new Funko Pop of the Toxic Avenger from the Toxic Crusaders cartoon. Oh, cool. It's pretty cool, yeah.
Hey, Menelect, it's just a shame. I mean, I love seeing people come in, but unfortunately, this is at the tail end of this. But I'm glad
we were just closing up everything.
But you are welcome back anytime, as is everybody. But I would stay on here a little bit longer, but I have been drinking this energy drink, and I've got to go to the restroom. And I don't know when I'm going to learn that it's not a good idea to drink that much caffeine or that much liquid anyway while I'm doing a
one of these days you're gonna look like Marty Feldman, Dana, and the eyes popping out of your head.
yes, exactly. But I do want to thank Chris for being on here with me tonight. It was fun, and I'd love to hear Chris's thoughts when he's able to actually watch the full movie without us, talking over it and talking about other things.
Well, I'm sure we'll come back, and it'll eventually come up, and we'll talk about it.
And I also want to thank everybody that showed up in the chat tonight. And even if you weren't chatting, if you were watching, because I'm sure by the numbers that I was looking at, that there were people that were watching and not chatting. And that's okay. I always say it's fine. It's still getting views. People are hopefully still enjoying the content that's being put out. I don't have any rules that say that you got to come in here and chat or you got to get out.
As long as you're here, that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm. And even people that watch it on the replay, there's opportunities to watch it on the replay. You can queue up the movie on your own and listen to me and Chris talk about it while you're watching it. So that's the miracle of the internet, unless something just blows up somewhere and we're not, able to retrieve this stuff that we put out there, which I hope doesn't happen. Because I have a lot of content that I'd like to hold on to it and not have it disappear. But I guess me and Chris will call it a night for tonight. I've got to do a few things before I get settled down for the night. I'm sure Chris does too.
Yeah.
And I got another message from Candace, so I'll owe her a message back too. So I'm going to listen to that. But me and Chris are off like two dirty shirts. Again, our shirts are not dirty, but that's just a saying. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. We got one more day left in the weekend. Let's make it great and get ready to kick Monday's ass all over the place. Because it's the start of the work week. Chris has got to go back to work. I've got to go back to work. Many of you in here probably be having to go back to work. Yeah. Thumbs down on that. But we're out of here for now. But we'll see everybody next time. So bye, folks.
Bye, everybody.